Jay Thompson, former director of industry outreach at Zillow Group. I worked there about 7 years, retired in August, and they sucked me back into working at this forum, which I didn't mind. I love this. I've been at all 5 of them. I think it's amazing. And speaking of amazing, I have 3 amazing agents right here. I'm going to be on my phone, not Facebooking, not Instagramming, but reading questions to the panel. So when I'm sitting there like this, I'm paying attention. And I want you guys to pay attention too. We'll hopefully have some time, a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. So if you have questions pop up in your head, keep those in your mind, and we'll get to them if you can. So I'm going to let these folks introduce themselves. There's no point in me doing that. So why don't we start with DJ?
Hey everyone, DJ Della Sala. I am out of the Jacksonville and St. Augustine, Florida. I run the DJ and Lindsay team and also own Ancient City Real Estate, a boutique brokerage in town.
Hey everybody. Ooh, no, I got nothing.
I have a good one.
I mean, I can scream if you want me to. Hey everybody, my name is Lori Finkelstein-Reeder, and I am your South Florida premier Zillow agent. I run the Lori Finkelstein-Reeder real estate team, and I've got 3 of my amazing team members here with me, and we're super excited to be here at our first forum.
Not working either. Hey, I'm Joe Stockdale. I work with Solid Source Realty. I'm in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. We're really on the east side of Atlanta, and work with Solid Source Realty.
I'm going to stand up and hand the mic off. So this is all about keys to providing exceptional customer service. So let's just dive right in. And one of you all needs to tell us, what does great customer service mean to you? Who wants to go first?
Roll it. Customers. Jeez. Hello. All right. Customer service to me really kind of comes out as giving the customer the experience that they desire, not necessarily the experience that we desire, right? We all kind of get caught up in what we want to do all of the time and try to have this one solid mold of what everyone thinks they want, but everyone's different. So you have to be able to adapt to different personalities and different desires, different fears, and really rock it. So I think that's, how you level up in customer service, in my opinion.
Can you guys still hear us? Okay, so much background noise. Can you hear us? Okay, so for us, the customer experience and our standards, and I'm going to speak generally about how we're working with Zillow. It's one team, it's one language that we speak on our team. It's identifying where to meet the consumer, what their needs are, what their fears are, like what DJ was saying. But from the very first phone call immediately is that everybody on the team, whether it's the person answering the phone, your admin, doesn't matter. We're speaking one language, and the language is what does that client expect, and making sure that all of us are behaving in that manner. It's from the beginning of the transaction all the way through post-closing. And the key for us, the big game changer in our training, is reminding ourselves daily that this is their experience and not ours. Right? This morning we heard a lot about trusting. That's what it's all about. So from the moment that call comes in, that registration, we are building the bridge of trust. One language, lots of trust, lots of transactions.
Yeah, I focus so much on service and, serving the client, serving them like I would want to be served, and just going above and beyond. One of the things we require of our agents is they have to be available, and they have to drop what they're doing and make sure. That's one of the most important things as realtors, is that realtors aren't available. They don't answer their call. They don't answer their phone. They're never available. They can never show houses, and that's how we're able to differentiate ourselves between others, is that we're available. We're ready to go show you right away, and get a lot of eager agents who are able to go and do that and do that for their clients and really serve them well.
Great, thanks. So that's kind of an overview of what you think customer service is and kind of how it works. Let's talk a few specifics. If you could kind of walk us through, say from the moment that somebody let's don't talk at the very beginning when they're just a contact, but from the moment that they kind of become a client all the way through closing, just kind of give us your basic process, how often you touch them. You know what I mean? And systems that you use and things like that. Can we do that?
So typically when a client or customer comes into our system, we definitely have several touch points of, through either an ISA system or through our people. We use Boomtown, so that is, our touch point that we kind of use throughout the transactional process. Then they get passed off to our transaction coordinator, which is kind of that I'm checking on and making sure that every step of the way is getting covered. Now, I feel that the customer service, all of that is very easily done throughout the whole transaction. Now, it's the things that we do after the transaction. We introduce ourselves through a BombBomb at the beginning if it's one of my team members, during and after. So once it closes, we have a system and process that we have a Boomtown, thank you for closing. 2 weeks later, if they are moving into the house, they get a star map of what the stars looked like that night that they bought that home. So just little things like that. Christmas card list, obviously, and magazine, and all of those. We have about 17 touch points that they get throughout the year just from us. So they never forget us. They always know that we're top of mind for them, and it's great.
Okay, guys, kudos for you for being able to concentrate. There's lots of background noise. So I would love to share 2 things that you can take back and change your business with immediately, right? There's all kinds of systems. It's all in the script, right? Knowing your scripts, making sure that from the moment you make that connection in person, on the phone, email, you are well scripted. You know your objection handlers. You know how to communicate with the person on the other end. We make what's called deposits into the consumer. You're constantly making deposits. You're talking about touches, whether, again, phone calls, emails, text messages. What are you doing for them before you're asking for their business? So start counting when you get on calls. How many questions did I ask? Was my script on point? How many deposits did I make into that Zillow consumer that just came to you that cost you a fortune? We look at every single registration, every call, every live transfer as a potential for 5 more transactions. Once we get through that sale and we're in contract, then we are always following up with client appreciation events, community events. We have to be really careful with all the text messaging and emailing. Make sure you're picking up the phone, right? We heard from Zillow yesterday and today that the human component is going to matter as much as the technology. That means getting on the phone, breaking bread with your customers, with those people that are going to recommend you.
Yeah, my system, I've kind of developed a unique system, I guess, with our agents, because we have it set up to where our agents only go and show houses, and once they go under contract, then it doesn't move to a different department, but there's other people helping. And so it's really able to free up the agent, because all of us agents are so busy with so much other stuff, and I can hire staff to do a lot of the other stuff that us agents can't do. I'm so busy, I can't send an amendment for this or that. And same thing with all my agents. And so that's one of the ways we've been able to add service to our clients is we free up our agents. And so our agents are available. They're able to go and show houses more often. They're able to answer more calls. And if they've got something they need handled, they just shoot a text to one of our admin and we handle it. We have a closing coordinator, but it's not just having a closing coordinator. We handle it from contract to close. I even have somebody writing up all the offers for all my agents, and that in itself is kind of a different thing, because my agents don't even know how to write up offers, and so, or if they do, they don't have to. I thank God every day I don't have to write up an offer. I take a picture of a note on a napkin and send it to Amanda, and so I'm free to be able to call my clients and hey buddy, what's going on? So that's one of the ways. I know customer service is so important, but us as agents, we need to free up our time so that we can go do what we do. I mean, we're specialists, and that's That's how I roll.
Awesome. I wanted to make one quick point to Lori talking about scripts, because I've talked to thousands and thousands of agents in my lifetime, and a lot of times agents freak out when they hear the word script. And I haven't talked to Lori about this, but I think she would agree. We're not talking a script that you memorize and you just read, okay? Because that's not going to work. But you want those talking points in your head in that structure of the script. Am I making stuff up, or is that?
So no, you're 100% correct. What we're talking about is internalizing scripts, right? Is to study them. I was talking to someone this morning and I said, if you want to be an NFL player on an NFL team, what do they do 5 days a week before game day? And they practice. So by the time you keep practicing those scripts and dialogues, objection handlers, when you get that Zillow live transfer, you have a sale because you know what to say. So you're internalizing, not memorizing.
Perfect, thank you. And my phone blacked out. So a part of, or I guess maybe more not a part of customer service, but let's call it a result of customer service, can be reviews. So let's talk a little bit about the review process. How do you ask for them? How do you request them? Do you request them? Do you think they're important? Maybe tell us how many you have, if that's something you want to talk about.
Sure. So obviously we live in a review world where everything is so important and based on reviews. And like Greg talked about yesterday with predictability and all of that. So what the consumer is wanting when they're looking at reviews is obviously predictability. And I think why we are getting, why you or somebody else or anybody's getting chosen is because of that predictability for that experience. And so yes, we do ask for it. A lot of people like to wait to ask for the review afterwards. Why not on the upswing of the transaction when you get it accepted? I know a lot of people, you'll get feedback. Oh, I don't feel comfortable doing it, until it closes. Well, if you tell them, hey, I'm running a contest in my office, and if I win this week, I'm going to get a $100 gift card or whatever it might be. But on the upswing of a transaction, because guess what? I had an agent I'm going to give you an example. Last week, I had an agent that got referred another person from that client that is currently under contract. And that person that's currently under contract referred her and called her last week and said, hey, am I going to get some sort of kickback or referral or anything? And she was like, well, no, I can't do that. That's obviously illegal. And I was like, and he called me as the broker and kind of all of that, got involved. I jokingly said, probably don't want to ask him for a review. She goes, oh, I already got one. It's 5 stars, so that's great. But had we have waited until the end of the transaction, we wouldn't have gotten that review. And sometimes, we all know that we're relying so heavily on vendors and different people that sometimes can't be predictable. And if you do that, and so we do that on the upswing. And then on the follow-up backside, we send out a bomb thing like I've talked about. We send out an email requesting a review. If you don't ask, you don't get. So I would consistently ask. We're at 250-ish 5-star reviews right now. It's going to be nothing like hers next to me when she goes right now.
Very funny. So you guys, our team will do north of 700 transactions this year. And when I say our team, it's not me. It's the incredible people on the team. And we've built that 2 ways, with people and with opportunity. The consumer cares what the third party says. Reviews are free, cost you $0 with Zillow. We have 830 reviews. It is driving our listing business off the chart. The system is simple. It's one language, one script. One language, one script. Everybody on the team from the very beginning, and again, my agents are sitting out there. It kind of goes like this. It just says, listen, Mr. Smith, I just want you to know that my one focus is to give you an outstanding customer experience, and in return, I'm going to expect a 5-star review from you. If at any time you cannot give me those 5 stars, do I have your commitment that you will let me know and you will give me the opportunity to correct it? If the whole team is not speaking that language, it doesn't work. So that is said in our listing appointment, our buyer consultation, open house, you name it. From there, it's pretty easy to get the review, right? That's just what we do. We have one person who is in charge of all of the customer experience, and part of that is asking for the review. It's basically through email and text message. There's nothing fancy or complicated about this. But what we know for a fact is that the consumer cares what a stranger says more than what we say. So it's a matter of all speaking one language and asking for it, and getting the commitment from the consumer that they will take the time and do it. Where we also mess up, and for us in the beginning we messed up, who in here has to potentially call a seller or a buyer 20 times before they're going to give you that, they're going to trust you and do a transaction with you? Come on, if you're realtors, raise your hand. Okay, same thing with the review. It's lead generation. So if on the 1st or 5th or 10th time they don't respond, we keep going.
Yeah, reviews has just catapulted our business. It's super important. We have a couple hundred reviews, and fairly new, company also, or team, fairly new team. But it's once we hit about 200 reviews, we just I started getting all sorts of listings, and don't know exactly if there was a correlation, whatever. But people see that, wow, they have a lot of really good reviews. It's amazing how much that helps.
How do you ask for it?
And asking for it, we just ask for them. I mean, it's kind of crazy to say, but I'm good friends with. I mean, you can't be good friends with everybody, but I know so many people. Like, I go to every listing appointment that I do, and I try to stay up with everybody and try to call everybody, and just and it's just a natural thing. Hey, I need to give you a review. We're going to send you an email, and we need a 5-star review. We ask for it. We ask for 5-star. It has to be 5-star, or it's not a good review.
Can I say something, Jay? We make it really easy for them to do the review. We send them the most detailed email you've ever seen in your life. All they have to do is click and write. It's that simple. Don't be afraid to call people you haven't spoken to in 5 years. Call them, tell them you're building a business and that it would mean everything to you if they would take 5 minutes out of their day and give you that review. You cure 2 things with that. You've reconnected with an old client, and all of them are going to do it. People not getting reviews are just not asking for them.
We also bought our URL, reviewdjandlindsay.com. We text that it to them really quick, brings it right to them. I don't know if you guys are utilizing that as like a shortcut. So something.
So that URL you have, does that just point to your Zillow profile?
Right to my Zillow profile.
Yeah. So that's a tip right there. You can buy a domain name for what, $10 a year? Point it to your Zillow profile, and that way, instead of saying go to zillow.com/DJ/97384, you can say go to DJ and who is it? Review DJ and Lindsay. When I was a broker, I did kind of the same thing. I had a domain called reviewOurAgents.com, and I just put a bunch of links to Zillow, Yelp, Google, Facebook didn't exist back then, but those kind of things. So I think the key point is make it as easy as possible. And I think all 3 of these folks said, how do you get reviews? You ask for them. That's really what it takes. Sometimes you ask repeatedly, or you ask more than once. Another point that a lot of them made was, and I hear this all the time, wait until closing and then ask for the review. I think everybody up here said start at the beginning, right? Make it a part of your process. Help the people help your clients understand, I'm going to be asking you for a review. Every premier agent I ever talked to in the 6 years I worked at Zillow that had a lot of reviews had that, they didn't just wait until closing. They didn't want their client to close and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, to the client comes this request for review. They're like, what the hell are you asking me that for now? So make it a part of your process. Bake it into the very beginning. I had a really good example once from an agent that said he was showing somebody a home, and he pointed out, I think it was like a water stain on the ceiling, and his client said, wow, I never would have noticed that. You're really observant. And the agent said, that's the kind of stuff you're going to put in my 5-star review, right? So it helped the client understand what he wanted in that review. So bake it into the process. Let's talk a little bit, every time we talk reviews, the subject of negative reviews comes up. And believe me, spending 6+ years at Zillow, people flip out and lose their mind when they get a negative review. And honestly, I shouldn't talk as much as a moderator, but this is a passionate subject of mine. Negative reviews are not the end of the world. Okay, there is documented studies and data out there that shows that consumers will believe, they put a lot more trust and belief into all your other reviews if they see a bad review. Now, do not go get a bad review on purpose, all right? Please, I don't ever want anybody to come back and say, you said get a bad, no, don't get a bad review. But if you get one, realize it's not the end of the world, and it can actually lend some credibility to all your other reviews. So let's talk, have you guys, I'm gonna assume with as much business as you do, you've probably gotten a bad review or maybe talked somebody out of giving you a bad review. So how do you handle bad reviews and how do you deal with it?
Well, I call it review karma. So we all go to a restaurant and you'll have the open table pop up and you'll be like, oh, I'm not reviewing that. We only review people or something or a restaurant when you have a really bad experience. Get in the habit of giving somebody else a good review. So a little tip on review karma. A lot of people will do that to gain attention. So you have to understand, like 2 weeks ago, I had a guy that wrote on our Facebook page, 1 star. I got up out of the meeting, called him right away. He said to me on the phone that your agent would not stop calling me because, you know, they have to follow up X, Y, Z times. And the only way that I was going to get a response from somebody like you was if I put this on the page. Talked to him. He was a great guy, very nice. Told him I would take him off the system. He said, hey, the review is down within 45 seconds. Make sure you hit those reviews head on. Make sure you're reaching out and understanding, like, hey, what could I have done different? Accept responsibility for it, not blaming other people of what had happened. That's what people want to hear, and that's what you need to do.
I just want to say one more thing about getting the review. I had to keep repeating it so I don't forget it. So the same way you would go into a listing, and for us, we give choices, because if we say, do you want to buy the gold, platinum, or silver plan, they pick one. So when we send them the email for the reviews, we've got Zillow, Facebook, Yelp, and Google. 100% of the time, they choose at least 2. So give them choices, and they will review you. When we get a bad review, we've had about 5 in 830. The first thing I do is typically cry and freak out and call Eric and Paul Boston and say, oh my God, my life's coming to an end. We got a bad review. That's actually what I do. And then after I gather my thoughts, I immediately grab that phone and I personally call that consumer. Again, we're back to the script. Hi, Mr. Smith. This is Lori Reeder. I am so sorry that you had a bad experience. Please tell me what I can do right now to change that and get you to take that review down and change it to a 5-star review. Typically, the fact that I called and I said I was sorry, I never ever do anything but ask for what I did wrong. I apologize 25 times, and basically I beg. I literally beg, and I say to them, I've been building a business for years. I take this so personally. I'm so very, very sorry. There's probably still like 2 bad reviews on there, maybe. But typically, if you, the owner of your organization, reach out, they will take that review down. This business of you need a bad review to make your good reviews look good, I don't like it. So that doesn't work for us. I say you call and you beg.
We're in so much communication. And we're so fairly new at this that I haven't had a bad review yet. But we had a lot of people, not a lot, but there's been some times that we're like, hey, we need to take care of this, or that could come to that point. And so I just jump in, like you say, and say, hey, what can I do to make this right at all costs? Because you can tell when people are really getting upset, and when you can jump in and make a situation so much more, better for the client.
So I think the key takeaway there is to own it, right? Just own if it happens. Call the client. Picking up the phone is so important. It's going to be far more personal than sending them an email, because human beings relate and can relate to other people, and the tone of their voices when they call, I'm sure, is apologetic. And even though you may beg for them to fix it, but you're not sniveling and groveling and pleading for them to do that. But apologizing, yeah, just own it. Now, there's another thing that can happen, and it happens occasionally, where people say, I don't know where this review came from. I don't know who this guy is. They left me some horrible review. Zillow is has extremely tight control over what they will and will not remove, and they have to do that to preserve the integrity of the review system. If Zillow removed every bad review that somebody called about, there would be a whole lot of, it just wouldn't work, okay? And the customers would lose trust in it. The thing that I used to tell people to do, if you get this review and you absolutely don't know who it is, and you think maybe it's a competitor or just somebody that just had a bad day, there's the capability to reply to reviews on Zillow and most other review systems as well. Yelp, you can do it. Google, you can do it. You can't reply directly on Facebook. But use that reply function. And don't be mean and nasty. Don't say, I don't know who the hell you are. Where do you get off reviewing me like this? Say things like, gosh, we looked through our files and our systems, because 9 times out of 10, those people are going to use some name like user 47382. So you just say, you know what, we've looked through our records and we're trying to connect who you are so we can fix this problem. I would appreciate it if you would email me or call me so that we can address the situation. And what a consumer's going to do when they see that, they're going to be scrolling through reviews and they're going to go, oh, here's a 1-star. Oh, look, you know what? They handled that really well and really professionally. So don't get angry, don't get upset, just be open and honest. And if you don't know the reviewer, tell them you don't know the reviewer. I've had multiple times where I told agents to do that, and they would call me back a couple weeks later and go, I put that reply in there, kind of like just what you said, and the last time I checked, the review was gone. That's not Zillow removing the review. That's the person that left it that went, you know what, I was kind of an ass, so I'm going to go ahead and take it down. So that happens too. But key, I think, don't freak out. It's okay to cry, but don't cry forever. And just pick up the phone and call.
So you can also take the posture that now we win, regardless of, and I would feel horrible if somebody wrote a bad review, but when you get to a certain number that are positive, you no longer have to worry about the one, like you said, maybe a competitor. It's not typically a client, it's usually a competitor.
So that's another good point too. Just, that's enough said. So you guys have all talked about how customer service is kind of in your blood, in your DNA. You want your agents to provide great customer service. How do you, when you're hiring an agent, is there anything specifically you do to make sure that their culture is going to fit your culture of customer service? We're going to skip, and we're going to go the other direction.
My most important thing is that they have to be available. That's number one. If they're not available and, hey, I can't do this, I can't do that, then they're going to say the same thing to my client and to Zillow's, lead. And they can't do that. And so that's so important, is that they have to be available. They have to be a, cheerful person. When you sit down and meet with somebody, you're able to tell if how they're going to treat your client and how they're going to take care of people. And I hire a lot of agents who have bought houses with me. A lot of them are new, and that they've experienced, they've gone through the process, and probably more than half of my agents have actually been a client of mine, or they're someone I go to church with, or they're, so most all of our agents, I know them, or I know of them, and you can always check out people. You go to Facebook, you can find out a lot of things about people, Googling people.
So you were asking, how do we vet people and hire them to make sure they're in culture for our team? The main thing that I look for personally is a track record of success in something. Depending if it's a brand new agent, where did they have a track record of success where they positively impacted other people? My personal biggest investment is in people, right? We've got all kinds of great systems, from Zillow to you name it. We've got the platform, but our big investment is in people. We go through approximately 3 interviews, and I bring my team in when we know it's time to decide if somebody's going to become part of our world, and they sit through interviews with the team, right? Because our culture on our team, that's the most critical thing and what we care about the most. So we're very, very cautious. But when you're bringing people into your world, regardless of what they're going to be doing, really dig deep for where they've succeeded. Could been as a mom, high school football team. Did they play on a team? Were they great on a team? So really going deep and making sure that your vision and your missions are aligned. When things do not work out, which happens all the time, we allow the standard of the team to do the heavy lifting. So standards are in place. Those are things that are non-negotiable. And when someone is not in culture or performing up to that standard, they tend to deselect on their own.
So what we do to make sure that it fits with what we are doing is you have to always publicly acknowledge what you expect, what you want them to do, and you have to continuously do that. And if you do not continuously do that, it'll get lost. And part of that is it's a book I read, The Gold Standard. It's the Ritz-Carlton book on how they walk around with their credo and how they have the card of their customer service standards on them at all times. They read it before shifts. They do all that. What they're doing is they're publicly acknowledging to their people of what they expect and what their expectations are for everyone else. And I think that's the most important. And making sure that people are witty enough, because a lot of customer service is anticipation and can that person think on their feet? You can almost tell within an interview how they act, how they're reacting to your questions, asking those tough questions that they might not want to answer, but how they react to it. Because we all know in real estate that stuff's going to come up, and I think if you can kind of vet that through that process, I think you'll be golden.
Awesome. We've got about 10 minutes left. So does anybody have a question? There's a couple of them. Let's just get to those real quick. Someone's going to bring around a mic. Chelsea's going to bring around a mic.
Hello. Hi, my name is Grace. I'm from New York, and I've been a broker for 30 years in Manhattan. And I've always chosen to work independently and not have a big team underneath me. And I'm finding now with this new program that I'm getting calls from people from the round tables asking, can you mentor me? Can you help me? And I find that, I never had that experience before, and I find that a lot of the big companies are not mentoring their agents. So how do you get started as an independent when you don't have this huge company behind you? How did you get started in building a team and having them believe enough in you to want to come on board under your umbrella?
That's a big question.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a course. So this I would rather just give you like a tiny piece of advice. Find the best coach on the planet that's done what you want to do and hire them. It's very challenging and complicated to answer in one quick question, but for somebody who wants to get started, either join a company that's got great coaching or hire a coach. Was that your question? I was trying to watch as close as I could because it was hard to hear.
No, my question is that people are skeptical about going on board with a company if you're not a Corcoran, you're not a Douglas Elliman. So my question is that I have the skills, I have the knowledge, I'm great at mentoring. People are attracted to me because of that, of all those factors. So how do I get them to come on board under my umbrella as an agent, to trust enough in me to say, because my philosophy is you don't need these huge companies anymore. The day of the entrepreneur is here, and with these tools through StreetEasy and Zillow and everything, I mean, you don't need these huge companies anymore because you've got that platform. So how do you get them to believe in someone who's an entrepreneur? It's just me and one other person in my company. So the question is, how do you get them to trust you enough to come on board with you versus going with a Corcoran or an Element or something like that?
Transparent value proposition. If you know your value proposition, so every day I wake up and the first question I ask myself every single morning, why would these 25 people want to walk in here and drop off millions of dollars to me? Because I'm clear on my value proposition. You need to write this out. You need to have a really good vision. People will follow people with vision. So be transparent with yourself. If people don't know what your value proposition is, they won't be attracted.
I'm an independent as well, so you do it through your sales, through your reviews. Be like, hey, I've sold 250 homes in the past 12 months. I have 250 five-star reviews. Obviously, massive companies have all this, but this is what we're doing in a hyper-local market, and this is how we're successful. And this is and kind of put the successes out there of people that you're having, when one of your agent closes 3 deals in a week or writes 3 deals up, utilize that on Facebook. That's the best thing you can ever do to bring talent into your organization, because people are looking at that, and it's so easy to do. I did it with Adrian earlier. Hey, this is why I love Zillow. This is doing this for my business. Took us 30 seconds. What that can do to impact, other things is, it's priceless.
That's good. That help? Good. Yeah.
I like what you said about the reviews, and we have like 370 reviews, and we have one review that was 5 stars in responsiveness and 0 in everything else. And we actually use that, and I really have figured out how to use that to get listings. And I tell the people about it. I make a joke out of it, but I say, this one guy, he called up, he wanted information, we called him, we texted him, we emailed him, he didn't respond, we called him, we emailed him, we texted him, and he finally puts a review up, and he goes, these guys are real estate stalkers, right? And so what I do is I use that with the people that, hey, if somebody reaches out to me, I'm going to do everything I can to sell your home and all that. So, and the thing is that review is like number 163 out of 375, but I actually embrace that one, and I would never, ever want to ask that person to bring it down, because it helps me get listings.
That makes total sense. That's a really, really good point. Any more questions? I think we have about 5.
Hi, just one question about the reviews. I just started asking for reviews. I didn't really have them, but I had told that you needed them. So I got a handful of reviews from years ago that are now on Zillow, and I saw that you respond to all your reviews. Should I respond to those reviews? Because you put the date when you respond. Can you just not put the date responded, or what do you think about that?
I think so. Okay.
You're saying that you have reviews that were merged with new reviews, and you're asking if you should respond to them.
Just all new, I have reviews from years ago. I
Yes.
called some of my clients, and they put on reviews.
Yes. So, yes, we respond to 100% of the reviews. Yes, I would absolutely do that. That's just a new, fresh touch to bring them back up to the surface. Hey, great to, just noticed your review. Want to tell you, I'm thinking about you. I'm going to be calling you next week. We had a great experience with you. Absolutely.
Thanks.
And that's something I agree with too, and I used to tell agents all the time. Everybody thinks, the reply function is there for bad reviews. Reply to every single review, good or bad. And people go, well, why would I do that? There's all kinds of reasons. It creates another contact point. Think of the consumer that's reading the reviews. And Lori can go in there, someone could go in, or DJ Joe, whoever, and someone will say, oh, these guys were great. They answered the phone all the time, blah, blah, blah. Somebody can go back into that review and say, Sally, we really enjoy working with first-time home buyers. You guys were a dream to work with. Okay, you've just plopped first-time home buyers down into your long stream of reviews, or loved selling you that golf course home. Okay, don't get all preachy and salesy in your review, but you can use a reply to a good review to your advantage for what other consumers will see when they go down and read your reviews. We have a couple minutes. I'm getting 1 or 2 more questions. Right behind you, Chelsea.
Hey, I have a question. So I just started getting reviews on Zillow, and then I started noticing they're all over. There's Google reviews, there's Yelp reviews, there's Real Satisfied, there's Zillow. How do I either combine them all, or I don't want to ask people like what you said about pick 1 or 2. Do you ask them to do different ones, or is there a way to incorporate them?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll pass it to you, but I really focused on Zillow because a lot of the traffic is driven there right now. And that was definitely my highest priority because of how much we advertise on there and that's where the consumer typically is. On the some of the other real estate platforms, you can't really use that as a positive feature for your business to gain listings and do stuff like that. So we really hyper focus on Zillow as like the priority. Once we get that, we'll run a review contest or different other things to try to gain reviews in other platforms. Good.
That was a good answer. Yeah, that question comes up a lot. Which platform? I think the most important thing is get the review, okay, first. Don't really worry about where it is. Not to pitch Zillow, but Zillow has the most traffic, eyeballs equals contacts, blah, blah, blah. So you want to focus on but if someone is a Yelper or a Facebooker and they're like, I don't want to create a profile and have to do that. I don't know how to do the thing on Zillow. I'll give you a Yelp review. Take it.
Because, I think Alexa is going to be tied to Yelp, so I think we will have to start focusing on doing that stuff as we kind of get into a voice-based search thing. So.
One more question. Someone over.
Oh, coming. Hold on. I was just gonna say I like that question because I only have the Zillow reviews, and I believe that if you're a premier agent and you're investing all this money in Zillow, and 95% of the consumers are on Zillow, I actually, I work for Coldwell Banker. It's a huge brand, but I put right on my email signature, premier agent at Zillow, and I had my computer tech, put my business Facebook, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my this, my that, and I have a Zillow, like a little Zillow logo, and they click on it and they can go right to the reviews.
Smart.
So make it easy for them. If someone's saying, well, who is this person? Let's check her out. They can go right there.
Yeah, you made a key point, and I think everybody's mentioned it. Make it easy. The easier you can make it for somebody else to do something, I don't care what it is, leave your review, whatever, easy as possible. And with that, we have to wrap it up because there's another session coming up right after this one. Give these folks a great hand. There's some super good agents.